the people that are going to be doing the work, where are they going to park?
Doing what work? Like working on the daycare?
Somebody got to take care of the kids. You and your mother-in-law, where are you guys going to park?
We can pull
You
in
drive,
the,
right?
Yes, we can pull all the way in the back. It's the driveway is long, so we could pull all the way in the back where we won't even affect the people that's coming in and coming out.
Okay, so you don't anticipate any parking
Issues?
issues?
No. No.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
I have, but I just don't want to, start jumping the gun when I don't even have the approval from the city or the state yet. Yes.
One other question. You have food for the 16 people? You will have food?
I will have food.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Thank you.
President, I'm concerned about the saturation of daycares in the area. Are there any other than yourself?
Oh, no, not that I know of.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Is there anyone interested in speaking for or against BZA 2025-10? Is there anyone interested in speaking for or against BZA 2025-10? Is there anyone in the audience interested in speaking for or against? Please state your name and address for the record, please, and hit that green button there.
I'm Robert L. Brown. I lived at 911 Vermillion. And the house next door is a bed and anyway, they got a sign in the yard, but I got this letter in the mail. Would you like to see it?
No, Mr. Brown,
anyway, they stuck,
Vermillion,
Right.
that's way on the other side of town. Are you referring to the daycare? This young lady?
No, I ain't got nothing to do with no daycare.
Just
This is about,
hang
the
on.
guy put some sticks in with a flag in the back of my yard, told me they was gonna rezone it or something.
Okay, hang on, we'll get to,
BZA 2025-16.
okay, we'll get to it shortly.
Oh, okay.
Hang on.
2516,
Pardon?
2516.
Yes. Okay, the public portion is closed. What is your pleasure, gentlemen?
Mr.
Let me
President.
repeat that, Mr. Chair.
Miss-
Now that the mic is on, I make a motion that we approve BZA 2025-10.
I second, Mr. President.
I'll second that. Oh,
It's been moved and seconded that we approve BZA 2025-10. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Vice President Hawkins,
Yes.
Secretary Jones,
Yes.
Member Cook,
Yes?
Member Fawcett.
yes.
Will show by a vote of 4-0, BZA 2025-10 receives a favorable recommendation and it will move on to City Council.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so the next two items on the agenda. 2025-11 and 2025-12. Can we take those together?
Both of these items, 2025-11 and 2025-12, will need to be deferred to the next meeting due to lack of notice by the petitioner. So there's nothing in your tabs 4 and 5 because you'll take no action on it today. But you will need to make an action to defer it.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to defer BZA 2025-11 and BZA 2025-12.
I'll second for the deferral.
It's been moved and second to defer BZA 2025-11 and BZA 2025-12. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Vice President Hawkins,
Yes.
Secretary Jones,
Yes.
Member Cook,
I abstain. Member
Fawcett.
Yes.
Will show by a vote of 3 in favor and 1 abstention. BZA 2025-11 and BZA 2025-12 are deferred to the next meeting.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is BZA 2025-13. Overview, please.
This is a petition by John and Dia Begester. The petition is to seek a development standard variance for an upper walkway and staircase along their south property line located at 8401 Lakeshore Drive. The property is zoned R2, and we did review and receive all of their publication criteria. It was complete. In your packet, I had noted that we had not received any written feedback prior to 3/6. However, since then, since the packet has been published online, we have received a couple different notifications. They are all included in your packet. I'd be happy to read them into record if you would like me to do that, Mr. Vice President.
Yes, please.
Okay, the first one is dated March 3rd from Mr. Thomas and Mrs. Teresa Sarah. It states, "We are writing in support of BZA 2025-13, a request by John and D. Baster, thank you, for a development standards variance to allow an upper walkway to encroach 18 inches into the side yard as referenced in Gary Code. This variance is necessary to accommodate pre-existing second floor door leading to a newly constructed side stairway providing access to the ground level. The door has been a part of the home's original design since 1940 as verified by the Lake County Property Record Card. We urge approval of this variance for the following key reasons. 1, compliance with city inspections. The renovation project underwent multiple city inspections throughout its construction, including a framing inspection that specifically assessed the side stairway. At no point during these inspections was the project deemed non-compliant according to the property owner. 2, critical safety considerations. The stairway serves as the only external means of egress from the second floor to the ground, making it for an essential safety feature in case of an emergency. Given the home's proximity to the sand dunes and the presence of highly flammable marron grass, the risk of natural and man-made fires is significant. Without this variance, occupants could face life-threatening circumstances due to the lack of secondary escape route. Given the project's adherence to the inspection requirements and the unquestionable safety necessity of the side stairway, we strongly encourage granting this variance. We appreciate your time and consideration. Please feel free to reach out if you should need further information. Another response is from Sandra Finnegan, dated 3/13. It says, "Hello, I'm emailing to show support for Dia and John Baster request for variance on an upper level walkway to encroach 18 yards into the side yard setback. Their address is 8401 Lakeshore Drive. Feel free to contact me with questions. And we have a third response. I don't have a name, Paul Osmoleski. This is rather lengthy, and I believe I saw Paul in the audience, so I will let him address his comments during the public comment period, if you would allow that to happen, rather than me reading a 10-page document.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so I wanted to share a little bit of history on this project. This is a project that is in construction right now. A stop work order was presented to them as a result of us seeing the stairway and the encroachment into the side yard. The building permit number is noted on your front page, B241189. In the picture that I've shared on your cover sheet, you'll see a picture of the side yard where the upper walkway is going, and then also where the old doorway, the existing doorway is. We received drawings as a part of this project through the building permit application process. In that, the review, we evaluated where the staircases were in relation to a determined build line. And in that build line and review, in your packet, you'll see that I have a favorable recommendation. That was under the understanding that the stairs, as they come down, they would be in compliance with what would be the front yard setback. And that is because stairs up to 4 feet in height are allowed in front or any of the setbacks, okay? So my approval is based on that recommendation. Yesterday, also in your packet, the petitioner provided an updated site plan, which is much more clearer and easier to read. On that, it is in your packet. You will see that they are showing the property lines, their existing house, a replaced porch, and a replaced deck. They've also shown where the location of this walkway would be. It's not labeled on the plan, however, they are showing a 25-foot building setback line. This is most likely your last piece of we're going to get you help on finding the location of the site plan. I put a little flag on the map in my book. I should have done the same for you all. Okay, on this site plan, you will see that there's the garage, the house, a replaced porch, and a replaced deck. The long line in between the replaced porch and the house is the line showing the 25-foot setback. Currently, these two improvements, the porch and the deck, are in the front yard setback, okay? Everybody following with me? Okay. With this new information, you can see that the walkway extends beyond the replaced front porch, which is what I had assumed was the 25-foot setback when I made my recommendation. This clearly shows that the walkway and the stair extend past that. So what happens is you'll see the upper door, the walkway comes across the south side of the property. Or is that that'd be the east side of the property?
That's where the east neighbor is.
Right, east side of the property. And goes towards the lake. Okay, so the stairs on this walkway, they exit towards the lake. In your consideration, there are multiple options for you to consider regarding the placement of the stairs, whether it stays where it currently is built, as the petitioner will share with you, or they turn the stair to go the other way, or they look at a ladder type system. There are lots of different ways that we can approach this. But in the end, they are asking for an encroachment into these side yards to be able to build this walkway and the stairway. And that concludes my report. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer. Actually, it would probably be best to have the petitioner present and then ask questions. Yes, sir. As written in your packet, I am recommending approval based on the conformance with the development standard variance criteria that's written on your cover page. However,
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. It was my mistake.
I would like to leave the floor open on my recommendation based on the new site plan and the location of the walkway in the front yard setback.
Yes. Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Dia Baster, and address is 8401 Lakeshore Drive, Gary, Indiana. I also want to introduce my husband, John Baster. The document that I'm going to be using for my talking points are in your packet. I have this is one that has the diagonal hatch lines on it and has a legend key in the top left corner indicating different zones. You see that? Okay, great, thank you. I do want to clarify some points. The stairs are partially built. They are framed. The framing was inspected and approved, passed, and the concrete supports for that were already built because we had the building permit, we had a plan for that, and they were, there was a pouring inspection that was inspected and passed. All right, I'll get to my presentation then, and I'm going to very much use that diagram or that plan that you're looking at. It will help me hit my talking points. Thank you. I'm going to spend a bit of time to orient you with what's seen here to help keep things clear for us. As simple as at the top of the page is north, and that represents our Lake Michigan. To the right is east, and that is our east neighbor. The bottom of the page is south, and that is Lakeshore Drive. And to the west, the left of the sheet west is Shelby Pathway to the beach. Okay, now to explain some of these hatching and symbols. Starting at the bottom of the page is our garage. That's an existing garage. When we built the house, that garage was there. And then moving to the north, of course, the house, that's the same footprint, I have these marked as original footprint or existing footprint. So anything that has that diagonal line is the existing footprint. Then further to the north is the replaced porch. That is a part of our remodel. And that is constructed according to the building permit. And then to the north of that is the replaced lowered level deck that is within the existing footprint. We wanted them to just match it, but just that it didn't have, to make it a stronger and better deck, and with glass railing around it. So now, and then to the east side, the northeast of this diagram, also in the diagonal hatch with the same footprint, is the walkway. This walkway both represents what was the lower level walkway. It was ground level pretty much at that point. And then we used that same for above. It is now at the second level so that we could blend that in with that doorway that I'll talk a bit more about later. So this walkway has some dimensions on the drawings here. You'll see the 22 feet and 4 inches. That is a length of, that was hard to represent here because it was pretty narrow. It was a 22 feet, 4-inch long privacy lattice wood fence or privacy wall that was on that walkway and extended up 8 feet. 22 feet, 4 inches long on that far east side there. So that was existing. And so that represents what's the original or previous footprint that we were working within for the project. I'll now point you to the upper door. You'll see located there in the hatching. The upper door, and then next to that is an X'd-out area. I've got that marked as new for the key. The new, that's not anything in the variance, at least to my understanding it had been, but that is within the side yard line. It does not encroach on any limitation for the plan. So more importantly then is to the right of that, and that is in a denser hatching. That is what I have marked as variance. That is 18 inches wide, as all the paperwork has been for the last, throughout, 18 inches wide, and 7 feet long is what it is from the framed in at that doorway, and then extending to the north to match up with what was the existing walkway line. I also want to point out that the walkway, we've intended that it's upper level. It is, we planned it so that it would be minimal. A standard minimum walkway is 3 feet wide, and we have it 3 feet wide, 3.2 though. The 0.2 is to accommodate still working within that footprint line, but that's where we have a glass rail. It's glass railing there. And I wanted to make 2 aspects that we put into place regarding the design. One is, and this might have been that some of our misunderstanding, our intention was to stay within the same footprint. And so what we did, I'll try to explain what's on this plan here. You'll notice that the walkway is the feature that extends most east on this plan. And if you look at the garage, it bumps out further east than the house. But those 2 lines line up from the garage to the walkway. And so we were working within that footprint line. But so there was an intention, very much so, to keep it minimal and to work within that line. The second point that we want to make, and you've heard reference to it before, and We always jokingly, my husband and I, when we show people our house or when we have guests stay over, we refer to the door as the door to nowhere. If you walked out this door, it is on the second level, and if you stepped out, there's nothing there. You would drop from the second story to the ground. So this is, the intent was to make use of that, to make it a safe exit from the guest bedroom that is up there. There are 2 bedrooms up there, and so that our guests in that room would have a safe egress. We all know how important it is to have an emergency plan and a safe way to exit in case of emergency. So that is what we are presenting today for that 18-inch east side variance. Thank you. Okay. Do I need to continue?
Are you done?
Well, we found out at 2 o'clock today further information. So I guess I need to add aspect to and talk with you about the stairway going into the toward the north. So what I had prepared for that was to speak on the nature of how this is not a hardship to others. I know that's important for me to address, and that's in the wording when people are to prepare for things like this. So I want to make the point that there are no safety hardship issues for the stairways. If anything, it would be the opposite. It would be to make things safer. There are no draining issues. As far as I know, sometimes between properties, it's important to have proper drainage. If anything, that's been improved because instead of the lower level walkway, it's now up high. It was not intended to offend or overstep in any way. We tried to keep things minimal. We did not anticipate any objections, and so it's not intended to offend or cause, I don't know what the word there would be, but anyway. We did, and you'll notice in the plans that were submitted for the building permit back in September, there was originally stairs that went down from the deck and had a midpoint landing and then continued at a 90-degree angle. We opted to not go that route, and it's got an X on the plan and corrected, and we made sure to clarify, and it is revised on that plan before it was submitted because we wanted a more streamlined stairway. We wanted it simplified. We wanted it minimal. And actually, it may seem that these are addition of stairs that were, we didn't have these stairs previously. It may, and you may get the impression that these stairs are further in, but they are within that footprint, which was our thinking was correct. Everything we did was not intended to make any infraction. So what we did was the improvements to the left side or to the west side of the stairway were minimized that direction to accommodate so that the stairs could work within that same line, so that it wasn't that we were extending even further. So we have glass rails on all of the remodel, so that will help, and it's all to code and safe and things like that. Let's see, there's no hardship to the supply of light. the supply of air, and this is wording that I found in documentation through zoning provided to me. There is no hardship to others in increase of danger of fire. There is no hardship to diminish air property values. There's no hardship to ecological and natural areas. I think that I could say more, but I hope to show that we've been doing this in the most proper way. And I thank you, and I don't believe there are any further comments, but I'm glad for questions or for us to proceed on this as needed. Okay. Okay.
Does any member of the board have any questions?
As I read through this, I see the information submitted by Mr. Osmowski, if I said his name correctly.
Yes, Paul Osmowski, if I'm pronouncing that fine. Yep, Paul Osmowski. He's our neighbor to the east.
He addressed quite a few concerns, and he said that he approached the building department. So my question would be to Commissioner Hawkins. Have you had the opportunity to review the points that he's itemized here relative to, I don't want to say violations, but, things that would cause concern for the building department?
Yes, I'm well aware of all of his observations, and I tend to agree. I was building commissioner when this permit was approved. As a matter of fact, it's got my signature on it. I did approve the building permit based on the plans as submitted. I was unaware and did not seek additional assistance in terms of the right-of-way. And that's where the problem started, is with the right-of-way. Mr. Osmowski brought it to our attention that this new construction was infringing upon his right-of-way to the east. And that's when the stop work order was issued, and you guys were asked to stop. We proceeded. Corey assisted me in checking out the zoning, and we find out, and we agree with your diagram, that this one mistake does not correct an error, and that's about where we are today. You're asking us to correct an error that was made not only by me, but prior to. From the garage to the house, it's all built into the right-of-way. So that's a concern. We're not trying to correct that, but we're trying to stop an error from proceeding. And this new stairway is an error, and we don't want it to continue. That's why we're here today.
I would
Does
also
that
add,
answer your question?
I would also add for the board, I mean, when the party does plans, it's their responsibility to find out if there's developmental standard variances that need to be applied for. Not necessarily the building department to say, hey, you need, when they're doing professional plans, the builder should look at where's the side lot, what are the requirements, is this gonna go into that, do we need, that's all part of the process that a professional is paid for. So I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention.
So are you saying that didn't happen?
I don't know, but obviously the building started, and it wasn't until some neighbor, and again, I'm not real familiar with the situation, but until a neighbor said, hey, this is coming over and it's violating the side requirements. Also, I would ask one thing, Ms. Baser, if you could just summarize for the board, it was a long, and I know it's a complicated thing, but I'm not sure they followed everything.
Okay.
If you could summarize, like, in one sentence, like, what exactly is the variance you're requesting? Is it for the east side? Is it for the north side? Just sort of, again, I appreciate you made you know this in and out because you live there. I think for them, it was difficult to follow
Sure.
along with that. So if you could do just like a quick executive summary of exactly the variance you're requesting, it would help them.
Okay. The The variance I'm requesting is for an 18-inch wide. The 3.2-foot wide walkway on the east side is mostly in bounds, but does on the upper level, or I won't even say that because that doesn't matter. It does infringe on 18-inch toward the east.
On the easement, is what you're saying? Or the setback?
The side setback line, yep. Our thought was that we were working within that same line, which I explained, but it is hard to see those things, but so, and then also, then I found out, so wording, the stairs are in that same line. So they too encroach into the easement by 18 inches.
Okay.
And toward the north. So our direction that we were advised was that if we were to work within that existing footprint, we were fine. And so that's what our plans were toward, and what it was constructed, and it was all within that footprint was our belief. But there is that, the only portion that reaches out of the footprint is that 18 inches by 7 feet.
On the sidewalk or where?
On
Or
the-
rather, on the
On the upper
walkway?
level walkway, yeah.
Okay.
So
But
that,
not on the actual ground itself? It's in the air on the side of your building?
on the air. And the steps are in the existing footprint.
Okay. Okay. Would that satisfy the requirements of the building department?
If it's in the footprint, because that was the agreement, wasn't it? That was the, I'm sorry to step in. The building permit said that was with the understanding that we were just building up from the existing footprint. And that's stated on the building permit. So that's my understanding.
The construction of the walkway, stairs, what have you, is an acceptable practice. The problem here is the zoning. That 18 inches, that not only the platform, but the stairs themselves extend all the way to the north, 18 inches into the right-of-way. That's where the problem is.
Okay.
I don't have any problems with the construction means or methods. It's the zoning that's creating
And
this
that's
problem.
what she's requesting
And
now?
that's what she's requesting.
variance.
That variance for the 18 inches.
Okay. To what degree do your stairs impede this gentleman's view?
That's probably gets to be subjective, you know. It's, we all have photos here today that show that. But there is, there were existing trees, or I'm sorry, shrubs, like arborvitaes that were growing on the east side. And can I have my husband help answer this question? Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
No, go right here.
So it kind of puts the wrong picture.
She takes this out to this there and turns the corner. So this part is always the 4 feet.
Yeah. Ms. Baser, I think it would be like helpful if you can show them like what part you think is over.
All right, sure will. John, will you, we'll just do this up here so we can. That's what we can ask to do. All right, thanks. Again, this is John, and he'll, so we have two photos here that hopefully you can see. You go ahead, John.
Sure. This is looking to the east. Current construction with the stairs there, and as you can see my neighbor's yard and his pool. There used to be, this is the other picture, I'm sorry, arborvitaes there that were completely blocking. These were 13 feet tall, and as you can see, you can't even see my neighbor's yard. Both pictures are taken from the same vantage point on our deck, looking east. We removed these about 2 years ago, these arborvitaes. Yes, on our property. We removed them about 2 years ago because they were growing too thick and coming through our railing on our deck, and replanted smaller arborvitaes, which you can barely see in the other picture, that obviously don't cover and provide the privacy that is desired, but hopes that they would grow. There was a concern from Mr. Osmolsky when I yanked those out and put the small ones in that they did not provide enough privacy. At that point, I got online a horizontal shade, if you will, that connected to the 8-foot high lattice that we had. It was 6 feet high. It pulled across to the end of the deck and provided complete privacy, blocking the view so we could not see into his pool, giving him privacy. And also, if he looked west, it would be blocked too, so if we were in our backyard having activities, we wouldn't be seen either. Since we have this new construction now and we have this staircase, and I will not be able to use that existing horizontal shade to provide privacy, once this project is all done, we are going to be seeking landscapers because the whole yard is trashed from construction. We've got a lot of landscaping to do, and we will be reestablishing arborvitaes to provide the desired privacy that we both want in between the properties. Once those tall arborvitaes are put in, not the small ones that I initially put in, those are going to be relocated, the privacy will be reestablished, and the view from Mr. Osmolsky's house looking to the west will be trees as it once was 2 years ago. And if you bring up Google Maps even, or Apple Maps, and do an aerial view of our properties, you can even see a big block of green in between the properties, and you can also see the footprint of my wife as she talked about the existing walkway, the footprint that we stayed within. So as far as a view and privacy, it will be reestablished, the view, or the privacy between properties. I hope that was clear.
Yeah, I followed it. I have a question.
Sure.
What if you take that walkway at the second level and turn it back to the west? Keep it straight, turn it back to the west rather than taking it all the way down.
That was the original plan. That was before it was revised. We considered that. But what it would do is it would create the necessity of a mid-flight or midway down platform to create that turn. And our belief is that that would create more of an obstruction than just having stairs that are angling fully down. So it would also obstruct our view, and that's a big reason why we wanted to do the remodel, was for our dream home and to be able to see Lake Michigan, but it would obstruct our view.
And also
yeah.
the door out from the Three Seasons room now, the patio,
Yeah.
is on the north. It used to be on the west, and we used to go down that walkway, but now because there's a stairway there, you can't walk out that way because you'd walk underneath the stairway. So there is a door now facing north, so if you cut it, as you're seeing, maybe have a hard right, going to the west, the door would be probably banging into
A
it.
conflict, yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying again that if in fact
Reverberation and that kind of thing. You're saying that where those trees still there, he wouldn't be able to see any of the stairway or the decking? Is that what I'm to understand?
I believe so. Again, these pictures are taken from the same vantage point. Yeah. I kind of wish I never pulled the trees out. I think we might not be having this.
And where we see the low ones, that's where the newer ones will go, that will grow, achieve a.
Yeah, like I said, those are pretty small, obviously, and they'll be relocated, and
Yeah.
we'll have to get with a landscaper and get some bigger guys in there.
Okay. Okay, that answers my questions.
Thank you.
I just got one question to ask. You said the stairways is going from one bedroom upstairs. What about the other one?
No, there's 2 bedrooms. It's in between. It's a landing. There's a
Yeah.
bathroom and 2 bedrooms upstairs. That doorway is in a landing kind of in between all that. When you come up from the downstairs, you come up the stairs, there's a landing, bedroom on the left.
Okay,
Bedroom on the
okay.
right, bathroom on the left, and then that door is facing east.
In
Okay,
between,
understood.
yeah.
In between, yes.
Understood. All right.
Thank you very much. Since this is a public hearing, Mr. Olmowski, your turn. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Paul Osmolsky. I live at 8407 Lakeshore Drive. I am John and Dia's neighbor directly to the east, so this project mostly affects me. So first off, thank you for allowing me to actually share my thoughts on this. When I learned about the project, first I'm happy that there's investment in John and Dia's house. I'm happy that there's investment in the community. What had me concerned, and this goes back to when I actually came to the building department and got a copy of the plans, was what they stated on the plans and used for approval was not accurate. And it was not accurate in several different ways. So I actually expressed my concerns, actually, in the packet that you have from me. The last couple pages is actually a copy of the email that I sent to the building department around my concerns. And I actually, at that time, said, listen, I don't want any action taken by the building department. What I'd like to do is try to work it out with John and Dia. I said, I think there's a compromise here, but what they're laying out clearly is actually, it needs variances. So I actually did try to work it out with John and Dia. I have a record of our communications all the way up until yesterday Tuesday saying, I think we can actually find a solution here. Well, evidently, I know they weren't willing to compromise. So to me, I would like to read this into the record because I think there's a lot of things here that are really important for you to take into consideration before you grant this variance. So the first one, I'm here to express my opposition to the zoning department standards BZA 2025-13, asking for approval of a skywalk located at 8401 Lakeshore Drive. I'm opposed to this variance for several reasons. Number one, I do not believe the variance request accurately reflects the actual scope of their project, what they're asking variance for. The variance asks for a zoning approval to construct the skywalk 18 inches onto the easement, when in actuality, what they're trying to get approval to build is both a skywalk, which is 18 inches beyond the easement, as well as actually construction of an external stairway, which exceeds the building line in the back on the north side by 16 feet. So that fundamentally is over the build line. So I think that misrepresents what actually they're trying to do here. And I think that is consistent with basically how they got the original approval to build this. So I'm opposed also to the skywalk because it not only encroaches on the easement, but is unnecessary and duplicative for the project. They have added an additional door on the north side of the house on the second floor during the construction project and do not need to connect the east-facing door, or what they call the door to nowhere. That door to nowhere was a balcony. It wasn't a door, there wasn't a walkway. If you look there, they actually have the two basically joists that there where was a balcony. So what they're looking to do is extend the walkway out, connect a walkway that's 12 feet in the air to the front of or the top second floor of the patio, and then actually have the stairwell down. I am vehemently opposed to the location of the stairs. To the location of the construction of the external staircase, which violates the build code line by being 16 feet past the north build line. And on Lake Michigan, that north build line is important because that actually keeps the integrity of actually the lakefront. I also oppose variance because I believe that the external is not part of the variance request or basically the intent of what they're asking for, and it would require a separate variance. And lastly, I'm opposed to this variance request because it actually comes with negative financial hardship to my property value and absolutely eliminates my backyard privacy. And John and Dia, and if you look in your mix, they did rip out the bushes 2 years ago. We talked about it. I actually spent the money when I did a landscaping project with the neighbors that were there previously, Rich and Janet, and I sat and talked to them. I said, this is what I'm doing. Let's talk about how we make this work. So I spent over $3,500 to put large arborvitaes in. John and Dia did come to me and say, hey, listen, what we'd like to do is replace those with thinner ones. And I said, not a problem. I said, number one, it's going to be expensive. And number two, as long as you maintain the privacy, I have no problem with it because it is actually on our property line. They replaced the bushes, but they put in tiny ones that didn't even come up to the top of basically the fence. So additionally, I believe this project was misrepresented to the building department in order to gain the initial approval and to circumvent the need to be here for the variances necessary. In October, I met the building department and obtained a copy of the approved project plans and expressed my concerns about what had been approved and did not actually have the appropriate variances. I never got a chance to come to this committee and actually express my concerns. The building permit B241189, which said the description of the work was to specify remodel the sunroom, rebuild the deck, and bump out the master suite. And Mr. Freeman, I wish that actually the contractor was here, indicated that he's building up and not changing the footprint of the structure in these attached documents. What was approved and what actually is happening is very different, and that's been my concern. The contractor did not remodel the sunroom, which was an unapproved, non-permanent structure made of aluminum and vinyl that was on the deck. He did a complete tear down, put down a new foundation, and rebuilt a stick and frame sunroom. In addition to that, the footprint of the sunroom was extended 2 foot further into the easement. They did not submit for or receive zoning board approval to add a second floor to their sunroom. So now it's actually a 2-story deck. So when I look over, besides basically the sunroom that was there, there's a second floor, and then there's actually a 3-foot glass railing on top of this. Now it's 16 feet above the build line above my property. They did not submit for or receive zoning board approval for the construction of a skywalk, which actually entered into the easement. They did not submit for or receive a zoning board approval for the external staircase that actually violates the north or lakeshore build line by 16 feet. So I believe the original permit received because the site plan obtained with the stairs and everything, if you look at it, and I have a copy of it, that's what they actually said existed, and I think that was what led to the original approval. But there was no variance, no zoning board variance, so I actually could not comment on it. When I actually talked to John and Dia about that, I said, I wish you would have shown me the plans because I would have actually, tried to work something out with you. Her comment to me was, I didn't need to show you anything. So I have been trying to compromise and find a place that, I love the fact that they were doing a project. I love the fact that we're investing in the community, but not at the expense of basically the integrity of that shoreline, because lakeshore is the critical asset to all of us, and it most affects me. I said, in addition to that, when they actually, because I started talking to them in October, when they started framing the back porch or the new sunroom, I went out and talked with them, and I actually talked to the contractor, and I said, you may not want to continue construction here because we haven't worked out some of these issues that we have, and I'd hate to see you actually do it. Dia told me, we're continuing with construction. The contractor's worker came, he goes, let me call my boss, went and called his boss, and he came back and said, we're gonna keep building because we're licensed, we're bonded, and we're assured, and we got our building permit. So one of the things that, as we look at, I think there are 5 violations in order right now. And you're gonna hear, well, to rectify it's gonna cost money. They knew it up front. They actually started building this project at risk. I talked to them in there that this is something that we have not worked out any of these variances. If you take a look at basically the new item that was submitted on bill line, 2/3 of that sunroom is beyond the north build line. So there is a whole host of violations here that never had the opportunity to be addressed because it never came in front of the Board of Variance, or the zoning board. So I'm here asking you not only to not approve that location or the variance of the stairwell, but also to remedy some of these other violations that I believe are clearly evident in this construction project. Because I think after the fact approving it, I think sets a bad precedent that you don't need to go through the proper channel. All you need to do is start building, and actually we'll let it go. So with that, I will answer any questions that you do have, and I do have pictures of the project, the view from my front door, from front porch. I have pictures of it, if you look east down the lakefront, where there's no construction that has passed the build line. And then if you look west now, the new construction that they actually in the process of, that they never stopped working on. So the stop order, there was construction going on every day. So it was a strategic decision to continue to try to push through to get this thing done as quickly as possible. Trying to think anything else. So what I do have is a copy of, excuse me, just so you get a kind of a sense of this, a copy of where the build line is. Here's one picture here. That is the build line. So everything here is basically beyond the build line. Sorry, I just started running out of print. This is the build line right here. So everything here is beyond the build line.
Yeah.
And what I'll show here on the camera, so I don't know how it's going to get picked up. But here is the build line. Everything there is north of the build line. That's my concern. And now we're coming after the fact, asking for variance approval to say that's okay. And that's what concerns me. So thank you.
Yeah, that's the bill line. Go ahead, you can pass it down. Oh, this is the bill line. This, how far is it?
So this is the build line. So everything outside here. So they're asking variance for that skywalk, but all that, the skywalk, the stairwell, all this, the addition, that's the top of the railing on the second floor that they never got a variance to actually approve the second floor deck.
Man.
Are there any other questions from the board?
So is this just, he's saying it's on his property?
It's not on his property, but it's in between properties, they have to be so far back away, and it's encroaching into that.
Got it.
Mr. Vice President, I had a question down here from Mr. Fawcett that was if this encroaches into Paul's property, and this does not encroach into Paul's property, it's an encroachment into the setbacks along the property.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak for or against?
Hold on, stop.
Wait.
To ask that first, we have to let other people, and then we can.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak for or against? Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jim Martin, 8307 Lakeshore Drive, Gary, Indiana. Let's see, where do I start with all this? First, let's do a little history lesson. I'm very familiar with that house. When I was a kid in high school, 70s and 80s, Frank and Iris Feely used to own it. We went by her house all the time to go to the beach. In 1992, Rich and Janet Ganch bought it. And in the mid-90s is when this construction project really started. I actually helped them cut their brick walls to create that porch area that is now being remodeled. So mid-90s was about where this story started. And one thing I want to kind of correct here is I've looked at their plans, and they have not exceeded where the original deck ended. They're using the same footprint on that deck. Yeah, they may have rebuilt it. It was not built with a foundation. It's on footings. So it's sitting up on, it's above the ground. So I'm not sure a permit for it was required in the past. I don't know what the Ganches did to get permission and do that, but that setup has been like that for 30 years or so. So I am rising in support of the request for BZA 2025-13. And I want to give a few reasons why. Let's talk about privacy. That word was thrown about quite a bit here. And why is the privacy necessary? Because the objector has a pool in ground that is past the north side setback. It's in ground, it's past it. So when there's objections to being past a setback line, someone's throwing stones at a glass house. But beyond that, the privacy issue was created by that pool. When the Ganches owned it, Mr. Osmulski paid for trees to be put in to create privacy because he put in the pool that needed the privacy. They were fine with it. The Basters apparently are fine with that, okay? So I also see in here the objection, because I only got this thing right before I came. I see the words misrepresent and mislead. And I want to say one thing. I've known the Basters for a little while, and I find them to be of high moral character. I do not think that they would intentionally mislead the building department or anybody else. And I don't think, the builder did it either. I think sufficient plans were submitted and a permit was received. But along that line, if we're talking about misrepresentations in the objection, and like I said, I only had a little time to look at this, but if you look on page 2 of the objection and page 5 of the objection, it's a picture of what it looked like before the trees were planted, okay? And obviously the Basters gave you pictures of those arborvitaes that were 13 feet tall and completely blocked the view. So when this objection is being made, the full story isn't being given. And I want to point you to the bottom of page 4. There's a picture in here, okay? It's showing the eastern view from the objector's property. And it's hard to tell because this is black and white. You might have a color picture of it, but there is a setup here. It's a grill and some other things. And what's conveniently left out of this picture is a very tall chimney. So if you look right over here, you don't see anything because the picture doesn't go that far. But there's a real tall chimney that is in the view of the neighbor to the objector's east immediately, Sandy Finnegan. She's the one who wrote in and supported the project. And I know at some point she put a fence in. I don't know her motivation. Likely, my guess, she was trying to block her view of what that setup was in his backyard. So I see all these objections being based on views and all that. But let's just get down to what's being asked for here. I was at that house hundreds of times over the years, and that deck already existed. It was already 18 inches into, and by the way, we're talking about the east side yard setback of 5 feet. That deck was already into it, and it wrapped around the side of the house for about, I don't know, 8, 10 feet, maybe 12 feet. I never measured it, but it was already there. And so what they're asking for is no more than an additional, maybe I'm guessing 7 or 8 feet of that same 18-inch encroachment into the setback that was already there. This is a 30-year-old setback encroachment, and they're just asking to add to it. Now, yes, there wasn't a stairway there in the past, and they're asking for a stairway. It's a means of egress, it's a safety issue. It's also making use of a door that was there for a long time that had no use in the old days. And so they're asking for another 7 feet of a pre-existing 18-inch encroachment. That's really what this all boils down to. And as far as view, the basers have said they'll put trees in to make the objector's view a little more sightly, if you want to use that word. And so I don't see any decrease in the value of his property because they're going to put trees in that look nice, and anybody who views it would be viewing what it used to look like when those 13-foot arborvitaes used to be there. It'll look the same if they do the same, or similar plants. I guess they're not going to use as wide arborvitaes because they were coming through the deck. And let's see if I covered all my points, because I only read this thing on the way over here. Yeah, I think that's about it. I'm not going to belabor the points, but my issue is this is not much of an addition. There was already an 18-inch encroachment, and it existed for 30 years or more. And they're only asking for another 7 feet, 8 feet. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience interested in speaking for or against? Come forward, please. State your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. I'm Carolyn DeCamisa. I live at 755 North Shelby Street, and I am definitely for the variance. You've heard a lot of details, and but what I want to say is the Basters are wonderful people. They would never intentionally do anything to try to get over on anybody or to be unneighborly. They're absolutely wonderful people. They bought a beautiful home in Miller, and since they've been there, they have enhanced it inside and outside with, it's very well maintained. Even during the construction period, the debris was carefully contained in dumpsters, and their improvements are beautiful. I mean, their deck, everything. The stairway isn't finished, but it will be very nice. I've driven around Miller a lot to see what other people have done with outdoor stairways, and there's a lot of them in Miller. Whether they're on a setback easement, I think it's the same thing, or not, I couldn't tell you, but everything they do is well thought out, well planned, well researched, and it's going to look great. They are an asset to the neighborhood. Their home is beautiful and will be even more so when they're finished, if everything is approved, and I hope it will be. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience willing to speak for or against? Please come forward. State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Sarah Lowther, and I reside at 8418 Pine Avenue. And to give you a feel for that, I am in between both of my neighbors. I'm situated like kitty corner to each neighbor. So I just want to say, just as the other neighbor said, what wonderful people they are. And they always want to include all the neighbors for any little social things that they might be doing. And they are Christians, God-fearing people. And again, I want to reiterate, as other people have said, they would never intentionally mislead anybody. I mean, it's unfortunate that as this project has evolved, that there has now been objections cited. But it's, again, we're boiling down to two neighbors that have always gotten along great. And because he's equally a wonderful person too. His whole family, his daughters, God-fearing people. And what I would love to see here is for this to be approved, because after all, think how you would feel. You're almost done with your project. Everybody's in support of it. Your builder has said, I got what I need to proceed. It's not to say he's wrong for bringing issues up, but it's late in the game, you know? Maybe the thing to do is work together on the finishing touches for whatever can be done now. But with everything in the original footprint, and she emphasized that many times, how much she was trying, both of them as a couple were trying so hard to not have any impact whatsoever on the adjoining eastern property. And one thing by fact, it's difficult in the property when you look at it online and things to actually see without having a survey the actual property lines, because we talk about side yards here and all these different things, and you have to get an orientation of how these homes are located in Miller, because many of them are not like this, okay? You talk about side yards, and okay, you got to be right here, and you got to have this much in the back and this much in the front, and what's the front yard when your house is oriented north and south, where you have your actual front door is on the west side of the home. So it's very difficult for existing homes to meet the parameters of some of these newer things. So to me, when someone has definitely been giving the complete effort to try not to have an impact on the neighbor, it's just disappointing that that's the route we're finding ourselves in now. And I feel that their zoning variance should be approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak for or against BZA 2025-13? If we're going to have a rebuttal, Ms. Beister goes first. Okay? Okay. And please limit your comments to 2 minutes.
Okay,
we got to get out of here.
We'll be real quick. We have a couple pictures here just to go over real quick regarding the property line.
It works really well if you see it in front of the camera with the pictures, because we can see the camera with the pictures.
Okay, we'll try and be brief. We just want to address the property line and how far we're off. The first picture shows the property line looking north. From the very north end of the property line, you can see on the left-hand side, Mr. Osmolsky's property. That's his pool enclosure that is 1 foot off the property line. And to the right is our property. What you see there is a fence that's just towards the back. But then you can also see the staircase and how it's further to the west. And the second picture is just a further back picture looking north to kind of give you an idea. You can see the trees, the small trees that will be replaced with larger trees, and the property line, and also you give a scope of how far that walkway is off the. There you go. Okay. That's all we wanted to present.
Thank you. Mr. Olmosky.
Thank you. And be clear, I mean, this has been hard. For 6 months, I have not slept well, and we've had numerous discussions. So this isn't about John and Dia. They are great people. I consider them friends. This really is around basically just the integrity of kind of like that north building line. Because, to the point, this actually footprint is larger, because it actually has now a 2 foot further overhang than the original. It has a second floor, as well as the fact that, all that stairway and everything is new, built out there. So this isn't, this is hard. This is hard, but it really goes down to protecting the integrity of basically that lakeshore view. Whether trees are there or not, I mean, that ship has sailed. That was ripped out 2 years ago and not replaced. But now it's around basically this, if you look at the magnitude of this construction project, it's immense. And it is, if you look at it, and I actually have a block view, it's an outlier. So that's what I'm asking, just to, not have the stairway, because that is now a huge issue, make it even worse. So, thank you.
Thank you.
My concern is that if there were the arborvitaes there, and they were what, 15, 20 feet tall, was that not blocking your view, Mr.?
Yeah, I mean, when they were planted, they were what, 10 feet tall?
Yeah,
So, but I mean, we still have a view of the city, view of everything.
okay. Well, would that same thing not be true with the stairs? As a matter of fact, it would,
That's above. Can you come to the podium, please? So if you go up to, I mean, that skywalk, that second floor, I mean, that's now 16 feet above the ground.
okay,
So like, there is no privacy now.
okay. Well, there are no restrictions on height, it's my understanding, so they could go up, so that to me.
But it's past the build line.
I know, but to me, the height, though, becomes a non-issue. I understand about the build line and
Yeah.
what have you. But, okay, that answers that question for me.
Any other questions, comments?
I have questions here. What they're asking for in terms of their variance. And then I understand that there might be a need for another variance request. Is that not correct?
I'll weigh in, and then maybe Attorney Molina, maybe you can weigh in. Their application, this is what it reads. Allow an upper-level walkway and stairs on northeast corner of residence to partially encroach side easement and for construction to be finalized as build-up / same footprint. So they've mentioned the same footprint here too. So that is what your application represents today. It does not address an encroachment into what would be the front yard setback.
So let me ask you this. If in fact they were to remake that request, would that be independent of what we would approve today?
So if there's a requirement for another variance, developmental standard variance, it would be best to address them at the same time, because conceivably if you allow one, but it really is also a violation. So if you allow a side variance, right, but then they make a request for the front variance, and you say no on that, well, now we have an issue for them, right? I mean, I think if there is two variances that are in actuality being requested, I think it's better to determine them at the same time, rather than make a decision on one and then require a request for a separate variance.
Okay, I can't advise him to do that, but at this juncture, I see where our fearless leader here has indicated that she would approve based on what we have here, this request. Given that set of circumstances, I would like to see what her recommendation would be on the second, if she were to do that. And under those circumstances, I would ask that, I would recommend that we defer this until they can amend their request for variance to include what would make it legal and address his concern about what would be legal.
Certainly, I mean, the board can make a motion to defer this until we get further information, certainly. It's at the board's pleasure.
Or we could accept her approval. We could, to approve what we have requested now, and then require that they come back with the second request.
Again, both are, and if the petitioner would like to weigh in on this also, it can be done either way. I think it would not be wise to make a piecemeal decision because then it affects the other, but it's the board's desire. I mean, if the board wants to do it that way, they certainly could.
Well, to what degree does this, I'd like to ask the question, to what degree does not approving this request hinder their ability to continue to build?
Mr. Beister?
Right, so, and just real quick for the board, remember, we have 5 standards when we're dealing with developmental variance, right? We have to show that the particular physical surrounding, shape, or topographical conditions of the specific property involved would result in a particular hardship upon the owner as distinguished from a mere inconvenience if the strict letter of the regulations were carried out. We have 2, the conditions upon which the requested variation is based upon would not be applicable generally to other property within the same zoning classifications. 3, the alleged difficulty or hardship has not been created by any person presently having an interest in the property. 4, the grant of the variation will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare. 5, the proposed variation is within the purposes of the chapter, and more specifically, but not limited to the following, will not impair an adequate supply of light and air to adjacent properties, substantially increase the congestion of the streets, increase the danger of fire, substantially diminish or impair property values, it improves access management, or will not negatively affect ecologically, scientifically significant natural areas, fish and wildlife habitat areas, or identify natural features or mitigate any negative impacts. So we'll make a decision, and the petitioner may want to weigh in how they would like us to handle this, but bringing it back to some of the public comments that were made, there's good people on both sides, and it doesn't matter if someone is a good person or a bad person. We just have to apply what the standard is to what the fact pattern is.
Right.
So with that, I mean, maybe the petitioner has some thought that they would like to add.
I had a bit of a hard time hearing back there, but I believe what you're asking is for me to explain what hardship this would be to us if our variance was not approved, correct? Or no?
Yes.
Yes, okay. The hardships would be that, Paul Osmulski mentioned sleepless nights. It's been the same for us. I know that doesn't always matter, it's not exactly what you're talking about, but we did receive the building permit September 9th of 2024. That's over 6 months ago. And this project has been, I won't agree with Paul that that is like a massive structure or anything, but it has been a massive commitment on our part. I've made thousands and thousands of decisions about what kind of materials, ways to save costs, answering questions. Just endless decisions. It's been an important thing for me.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yes.
And not to, because obviously we understand this is a huge.
Yeah. Okay.
I understand. I think we need to bring the focus back. The question was raised by Mr. Cook. Does the variance address, as submitted, both the side and the front? And the answer, it appears, is it just addresses the side, not the front. Mr. Cook is saying, if we make a decision just on the side, do we still require one in the front? And if we do, how does that affect? And so my question is this something, and the board brought up, perhaps we should defer this to have it amended, and it's your petition. We can go forward on it, understanding that there's been a point made that you may need another variance, or we can defer and wait till it's amended and everything handled at once. Again, we can't tell you what to do, and it's up to you, but I think the board is seeking some input on what your position is on that issue.
We'd like for you to make a decision on the variance submitted today.
Okay, you understand that's not both variances?
Both?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, this is such a major thing to us on the fly. So we're just going.
That's just for the.
May I restate, just for clarity? You have submitted an application for a side yard variance. After our most recent discovery, you also would need a front yard variance as well. That would allow your stairs to encroach towards the lake shore, not just to the east, the 18 inches, but it would need to be the length of the stair towards the lake shore as it is going into the front yard, because the front yard is considered the lake shore side. So that is what Attorney Molina is mentioning, is that the board likely will recommend 2 variances. One for your side yard encroachment, which is the petition in front of us, and one for the front yard, the stair encroachment. They're offering an option to address them individually, one today, and you would have to apply for another one in the future, or wait today and approve them both at the same time, or deny them. Address them both in the future underneath this at the same timeline.
Could we have 1 minute to talk? Thank you.
Attorney Molina, would it be beneficial to maybe go to the next put this on hold and go to the next petition?
Yeah, certainly. What we can do is pause this unless they have, okay.
Okay, thank you. We are requesting that you proceed with the variance that is existing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess we've heard all of the arguments, and just for the record, this doesn't question the morality, Christian-wise, of any of you, the petitioners or the opposition. This is simply a matter of trying to get it right, and that's the way I hope that we will proceed. What's the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chair, I recommend that we accept our supervisor's ruling on this and approve BZA 20-25-13 with the idea that they would come back and make the second request for variance, so that we, at that point in time, would be legal, in terms of, having addressed all of the concerns.
All right, I'll second that.
Just as a point of clarification before we take a vote on it, so Mr. Cook, you're making a motion to approve it with the requirement that they come back. So are you conditioning it on the requirement that this approval be granted?
No, I want to do it independently, and then they come back.
Okay, but you said approve
I
it with the
understand.
requirement that they come back for the front. So
You guys understand you have to come back with the request for the front yard setback. So how should I phrase it?
So what I'm saying is, are you asking that it be approved with the condition that they come back
Yes.
for the other and pending
Yes.
that approval also? Because again, I don't know that you want inconsistent results. Not that that's going to happen, but that's a possibility, right? So do you want to make the motion that it be approved with the condition that they file for a front yard variance and that front yard variance be approved? So that if one is not approved, then both are not approved. You don't have to do it that way. I'm just trying to get clarification.
No. Let's do this independent of that, knowing, though, that they have to come back and request the front yard setback. Okay?
Okay. So then the motion is approve.
That's to approve.
On this variance.
Okay, and that's it
Yes.
Okay.
On this variance.
for the side yard.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. It's been moved and second that we approve BZA 2025-13 as presented. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Vice President Hawkins,
No.
Secretary Jones, Secretary Cook, Member Cook,
Yes.
Member Fawcett.
Yes.
Okay. So we have a vote of 2 in favor, 1 against, and 1 abstention. In order for this to pass, it needed a 3-member vote, so the developmental standard does not pass.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is BZA 2025-14, 13, 14, I'm sorry. Overview, please.
This petition is by Mr. Wayne Young on behalf of Johnny and Lois Accommodations. This is a petition to seek a special use for a short-term rental located at 1924 Hovey Place. The property is zoned residential. In the comprehensive plan, it is a flexible residential zone, and in your cover sheet, I've provided a description of that, just in case you weren't aware of what flexible is defined as. The proof of publication was received and complete, and prior to 3/6, we had not received anything. However, we did receive a letter recently that I'll read into the record regarding this petition. This is from Mr. Edward McLean. It says, "Dear Zoning Administrator, I am all for Wayne Young receiving a special use permit. I'm a little older than he and have known him all his life. His coming home and making their home a short-term rental has kept another house on our block from becoming an abandoned eyesore, torn down and replaced with another unkept vacant property. Helping Wayne with keeping this property has meant also upgrading the areas along 19th Avenue and the other vacant lots on Hovey Place. I cut part of the vacant lots on both sides of my house, and Wayne now has his yard keeper cutting parts of 3 additional vacant lots and has been working with the church on Matthews Place to keep a 19th Avenue stripped cut from Matthews Place to Mount Street. We placed a camera on Tressie Terry's yard to discourage dumping in her extended yard along 19th Avenue. Though the amount of dumping has been less since we put up the cameras, on the 2 times people dumped off stuff on the 19th, I sent pictures to Wayne and he follows up with the city to have them removed. Both Terry and I have access to the cameras on Young's house. A third neighbor is on Wayne's message list he uses to send updates. However, I have an app where I can see for myself what is going on with the property. There are only 2 unboarded, abandoned houses and 1 unoccupied rentable house on the street. I'm hoping Wayne is able to purchase another one. Whether the second home is rented on a long-term or a short-term basis, I am sure it will be a welcome addition to the neighborhood. Sincerely, Mr. McLean." After reading that into record and reviewing the special use permit criteria, which is on your cover sheet, staff is recommending a favorable approval on this recommendation.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience interested in speaking for or against BZA 2025-14? Is there anyone in the audience interested in speaking for or against BZA 2025-14? Is there anyone interested in speaking for or against BZA 2025-14? Hearing none, public hearing is closed. Any of the members have any concerns or questions?
Well, the petitioner is not here to speak, is he?
That's correct. Mr. Young actually is out of state today. He had worked on trying to get someone here. Are you here for him, sir? Yes, I'm here for Mr. Young. Come on up.
Hello, my name is Steve Kendrick, and I'm a friend of Mr. Wayne Young, and he asked me to come, and if you need to talk to him, I could call him directly. And was there any questions I didn't know how to answer?
What's your address?
4127 West 11th Avenue, Gary, Indiana. Mr. Rain's property is on 19th and Hobart.
Hovey Place?
Yes, Hobart Place.
I'm sorry, what are you petitioning for with this property?
Pardon me?
What is this property being petitioned for?
B&B.
B&B?
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with the property?
Yes.
Okay, do your neighbors?
I'm a neighbor and a friend. I go by and take pictures for them, and I've been having to clean up the yard a little bit.
Do the neighbors adjacent to them have any objectives to this being a B&B?
They said you guys, Mr. Gaines, got a letter.
That's what I just read in.
Oh, did you? Okay. How often do the owner come back to this area?
He probably come about maybe every 2 months, but when he don't come, I go by there and he got a guy that clean up the yard. So about once a month, I go by there. I stay maybe about 10 minutes away from him.
Anybody inside that cleans it or do anything?
Yeah, they had it rented out for a while. So when they move out, they re-clean it up and restock it.
This is a B&B, right?
Yes, sir.
What I'm trying to ask is who monitors the place? I don't know.
Well, he monitors it mostly, but I go by about once or twice a month. And if the grass need cutting out of the yard and needs some yard work, I do that for him. And I take pictures and send them back to him, let him know what's going on.
No, what I'm asking is if you get a tenant and if I go in and rent it or something, who monitors the person being in there?
Yeah, Mr. Young.
From where he lives?
Yes, he'll call me. He got a yard guy that work on the yard. So he'll call them if it need yard work.
No, what I'm asking is if there's a problem in this house, who takes care of that problem if he's out of town and you're just monitoring the grass or whatever? Who takes care of it?
Mr. Young. He'll come back here and take care of it if it need to be.
Where does he live?
I don't know where he say he live.
Mr. Young, he said. Mr. Young is the one that would maintain it, is what he said.
Okay, but where does Mr. Young live? Does he live in Gary?
No, he
He
said
live in D.C.
And where?
Washington, D.C.
And that's what I'm asking. If there's a problem going on in this place, who comes and monitors? If he's in D.C., there's nobody there to monitor the problem.
He'll call his maintenance man that work on the house and did some work when he restored it, and he'll call me and tell me to go by there and see what's going on, and I relate it to him.
How would he know if in fact it was rented and someone wanted to throw
Well, through Mr. Young.
a party of
Pardon me?
sorts? You know, these people have been known to rent these places and throw wild parties. How would he know that?
That's a
his
good question.
requirements for the
I wouldn't know
rental
the
are
answer
being
to
met.
that. But I know basically it's a nice neighborhood and it's kept up well. So if there's any problem, Wayne would let me know if I can go by there and do it for him if he's out of town.
That's what we're trying to ask you. If something's going on, they're partying or whatever, and Mr. Wayne is in D.C., who is watching the place?
Well, like I said, I go by there and he's got a neighbor that he should have a letter from a neighbor that was here today that goes by there and check on it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Cook, for every short-term rental, they have to fill out an application form. I don't know that he sent us a copy, but one of the requirements is they have to have an in-town manager, and that's exactly what you're asking for.
Right.
So unfortunately, he's not here to answer that because it should be an easy question. But in his application, he should have had a manager listed local.
Right.
I don't have access to his, that's in the OpenGov system, and I don't have access to that, unfortunately.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So there's certain, short-term rentals, again, that statute was passed downstate back in 22 or 21. And basically the state said, hey, you can now put up short-term rentals, here's the parameters, right? So before, Gary didn't pass an ordinance until 2023. So there were people operating as a short-term rental before we passed the ordinance because it was under the state statute. And I believe this one's been in process. But as part of that, he still, once we passed the ordinance in '23, they all applied. I believe he applied. Unfortunately, he's not here because that would have been an easy question for him to answer.
Yes.
The permit, that is a requirement of the permit, and they cannot get their permit until we have approved them being able to use this property as a short-term rental. I will flag for you that the petitioner in your packet did provide a narrative. If you haven't had a chance to read that, it outlines his case for this. And I'd be happy to read it out loud if you would like.
And I can call Mr. Young if you need me to.
I just think Mr. Young needs to have a representative here to answer these questions that we have.
Okay.
And you can tell Mr. Young he needs to have some